Hello, beautiful Libra soul. Let me tell you something most people never get to hear. The moment you were born, someone in that room saw something so powerful, so unexplainable that they decided to never speak of it again. And today, finally, the prophecy that was hidden that day is being revealed. This is not a typical horoscope reading. What I'm about to share with you comes directly from a deeper place, a sacred contract your soul made long before you arrived on Earth. And if you found your way to this video, it means the universe has decided it's time. Welcome to Zodiac Whisper Tarot, where we don't just talk about signs and stars, we help you remember who you truly are. I want you to pause and ask yourself something right now. Why have you always felt like something about your story didn't quite make sense? Like a piece of your life was edited out, as if someone tore out a page from your personal origin story? Libra, when I tapped into your energy today, I felt something shift, like a crack in time opened up. It wasn't just a reading. It was a message. One that's been waiting decades, lifetimes even, to reach you. The first image I received was a woman silent, watchful, standing beside your newborn self. She saw something. Maybe it was a symbol on your skin. A strange light in the room. A vibration that didn't belong to the physical realm. Whatever it was, she chose silence over truth. But no silence lasts forever. And today, with your permission, I'm going to help you unlock that memory. Libra is ruled by Venus, beauty, justice, divine balance. But your birth was not balanced. It was veiled. You were born not just with a body, but with a mission, one that has been echoing in your subconscious since day one. This reading is not about predictions. It's about remembrance. It's about restoring what was erased. So if your heart is racing, if your skin tingles, if your breath feels a little deeper than usual right now, trust that. It means the energy has already begun moving. Now, if what you've heard so far resonates with something deep inside you, if a part of your soul feels like it's finally being seen, I want you to write in the comments below. I'm ready to reclaim my truth. Because speaking it aloud begins the awakening. Let me also take a sacred moment to thank you. Every comment, every like, every subscription brings you closer to this growing soul family here at Zodiac Whisper Tarot. Your presence doesn't just support this channel, it brings power and clarity to the collective energy we're building together. And believe me, Libra, you'll want to stay until the very end of this reading. Because what the universe is about to uncover will change the way you see your past, your purpose, and your true name. Now, take a deep breath. Keep your heart open. And let's begin the journey back to the moment you were never meant to forget. There's something about certain moments in life that don't just unfold, they echo. And the moment you were born, Libra, was not simply a beginning. It was the awakening of something far older than your body. It was the quiet ignition of a destiny that had been waiting for the right vibration, the right soul, the right time. That time is now. When I see the Justice card in a reading for Libra, it doesn't surprise me, it feels like a mirror has been lifted. Justice isn't just about fairness or balance. For Libra, it's the embodiment of your divine agreement with truth. The sword in one hand, the scales in the other, it is not only the symbol of outer justice, but inner reckoning. And when justice appears in this reading, tied to your origin, it's as if the universe is finally ready to reveal what was never spoken, that you were born under divine law and that law was interrupted by silence. There was a woman in the room the day you entered this world. She may have been a nurse, a relative, a midwife, but more than anything, she was a witness. Something extraordinary happened. Maybe it was the shimmer of light across your skin, a sacred symbol, a pulse of energy that felt otherworldly. Maybe it was just a look in your eyes that told her, this child did not come empty-handed. This child carried something holy. But rather than speak it into existence, she buried it in silence. Now here you are years later, still living with the ripple of a story that was never told, trying to piece together a puzzle that's always had one piece missing. And what's more Libra than this? You've spent so much of your life balancing the energies around you, keeping peace, creating harmony, navigating dualities. But beneath it all, something has always felt off. Like you were holding a scale that never really measured your own weight. That's not a flaw. That's a calling. It's not that you're unsure of who you are. It's that you've been carrying someone else's silence as if it were your own identity. You've been trying to bring balance to a world that never gave you a full blueprint of yourself to begin with. And that's where we shift from astrology to healing. Because in the work I do, the line between cosmic insight and emotional truth is razor thin. When we don't know our full origin story, we don't just feel lost, we perform. We adapt. We become exceptional at playing roles that bring comfort to others while our own sense of self feels paused, suspended, or blurred. This is not your fault. Sometimes the people around us remain silent not because they want to harm, but because they're afraid of what truth might change. But truth doesn't come to destroy, it comes to rearrange, to realign, to return us to the place where we can walk freely in who we are. The number 11 holds significance here. In numerology, it's known as the master number of intuition, spiritual insight, and higher justice. It is the number of activation, of alignment. It doesn't come to people who want easy lives, it comes to those whose lives are meant to change the atmosphere around them. If you've been seeing 1111, it's not a coincidence. It's a spiritual prompt, a reminder that your journey is not just about healing yourself. It's about shifting an entire lineage that never had the language to speak its truth. So, if you've ever felt like your life has been one long performance in a play you didn't audition for, pause now. Breathe. And remember, this moment is not about blame. It's about restoration. You are not here to accuse the past, you are here to free it. And in doing so, you free yourself. Like a gentle whisper in the soul, one of the oldest pieces of sacred teaching says, the truth will set you free, but only once you're ready to carry its weight with grace. And Libra, you were born with that grace. Not to hold the silence but to release it. Let this be your beginning. Not of a new identity but of the real one finally coming home. Sometimes the soul speaks in ways the mind can't yet understand. Libra, this part of your journey is not about learning something new, it's about remembering what was always there. The cards laid out before you are not predictions. They are reflections. Mirrors that echo the quiet knowing inside you. And now, they are speaking louder than ever. The Two of Swords appears first not to confuse, but to reveal the crossroads where your energy has long stood still. You see, many Libras have spent a lifetime making choices that weren't truly theirs. Not because you lacked clarity, but because you were raised in systems, family, society, expectations where keeping the peace was often more important than expressing your truth. You became the peacemaker, the harmonizer, the one who could read a room and say exactly what would keep the balance. But while others found comfort in your calm, you often felt like you were living inside a decision someone else made for you. The soul remembers that, even if the conscious mind forgets. And the Two of Swords whispers, not with pressure but with compassion, you're allowed to open your eyes now. You're allowed to choose yourself. Then comes Temperance. Soft, balanced, luminous. This is not just a card of moderation, it's a call to realignment. It shows up in your reading as confirmation that your inner world is already recalibrating. The energy you've carried for so long, the need to adapt, to please, to maintain, has begun to soften. It's dissolving, gently, into something more honest. Something that belongs entirely to you. When Temperance appears after the Two of Swords, it means you are no longer holding opposing truths in tension, you are beginning to weave them into one harmonious thread. This is a powerful sign that the prophecy, long dormant in your subconscious, is now beginning to stir. Not with force, but with frequency. With resonance. With a quiet pulse in your chest that says, "This path is mine now." You may already be feeling it. That sense that things you once ignored are suddenly impossible to overlook. Recurring dreams. Subtle synchronicities. The numbers 222, 909, 1111 showing up on clocks, receipts, license plates, reminding you, again and again, that you are not drifting. You are being guided. Numbers carry vibration, and these particular codes are connected to alignment, spiritual awakening, and soul integration. They are messages from the frequency of order and restoration. The very field in which Libra was born to thrive. You may walk into a space and feel like you've been there before. You may meet someone and sense a familiarity you can't explain. These are not coincidences. They're echoes. Evidence that your energetic field is tuning itself to a new reality. Or more accurately, to your original design, the one you were born with before others edited it for comfort or tradition. Astrologically, Libra is entering a period where the electromagnetic resonance of Venus, your ruling planet, is being amplified by surrounding transits. In practical terms, this means your heart is being called to realign with your voice. Your intuition is being asked to speak louder than logic. And you are being nudged, ever so gently, to stop filtering your truth just to fit into environments that were never meant to contain your fullness. Energetically, your field is expanding. Your body may feel more sensitive. You might notice emotions surfacing out of nowhere. You could experience a sense of anticipation without knowing why. This is normal. This is part of the recalibration. And it is deeply personal. Because the soul doesn't need the world's approval to awaken. It only needs permission from you. Remember, you were not created to keep others comfortable. You were created to carry beauty, clarity, and spiritual symmetry into places that have forgotten how to hold it. And though others may have made decisions for you in the past, the next step belongs entirely to you. A gentle teaching reminds us that the path forward is not always about speed, but about alignment. That sometimes, the most faithful step you can take is the one that returns you to yourself. So if everything feels like it's shifting, it is. But not because you're losing control. It's because you're finally regaining it. In the most sacred way. It often begins with a sense of inner restlessness, a quiet discomfort that doesn't go away, no matter how much you try to keep the peace. Libra, this part of your journey is not about questioning what you've built, it's about recognizing what was never yours to carry in the first place. When the Tower appears in your reading, it can feel confronting. But here's what most people misunderstand about this card. It's not chaos for the sake of destruction. It's a sacred clearing. A release of all the structures, beliefs, roles, identities that were constructed on shaky ground. It doesn't shatter what is true. It shatters what has been falsely upheld in the name of harmony. For someone like you, born under the sign of justice, balance, and beauty, the collapse of something familiar can feel like failure. But it's not. It's permission. Permission to stop upholding a version of your life that was built to keep others comfortable, while your soul stood quietly in the background, waiting for its turn to speak. The Tower doesn't ask you to let go of yourself. It asks you to let go of the version of yourself that was never rooted in your real truth. And what's rising from those ashes is far more aligned. Perhaps this moment comes with a family truth being revealed, a part of your identity you weren't told, or the realization that your deeper purpose, your soul's mission, was pushed aside because it didn't fit the mold. This isn't an accusation. It's an awakening. Not everything hidden was malicious. Sometimes, people silence the truth out of fear or misunderstanding. But now, you are strong enough to face it not with blame, but with clarity. That clarity arrives with the Queen of Swords. She doesn't carry rage. She carries wisdom. She sees through illusion and asks direct, necessary questions. In your reading, this Queen represents your inner voice sharpening. You're no longer cushioning the truth to protect others. You're starting to see that in doing so, you were only delaying your own healing. This isn't about cutting ties recklessly. It's about stepping out of roles that asked you to shrink, to mediate battles that were never yours to resolve, to wear masks that dulled your light just to maintain fragile peace. One of the most empowering self-truths is this: you do not need to keep playing the peacekeeper, if it comes at the cost of your peace. This is where the law of attraction begins to work in your favor in a way it may not have before. You see, the universe doesn't respond to who you pretend to be. It responds to your frequency. And your frequency is most powerful when it is honest. When you start aligning with what is real, messy, raw, uncertain, yet authentic, you attract people, paths, and purpose that are no longer distorted by performance. This is the liberation the Tower brings. This is the gift of the Queen of Swords. Sometimes, we're taught to stay silent to keep the family together, or to ignore what hurts to avoid being the one who causes problems. But healing is not causing harm. Choosing yourself is not betrayal. And truth, even when it costs you connection with others, will always give you back connection with yourself. There is quiet wisdom in the words passed down through sacred teachings. The truth won't harm you, it will free you. And freedom, Libra, is not about running from your past. It's about walking forward without having to lie about it anymore. This part of your journey may feel like something is ending. But what's really happening is that you're being returned to the core of who you are. Not to fight for balance but to become the balance. Not to keep the peace but to live in peace. And peace, when it's born from truth, will never ask you to betray yourself again. Not every return is a step backward. Sometimes, the most radical act of progress is coming home to yourself, especially to the parts of you that were edited, overlooked, or quietly buried to keep the peace. Libra, as the energy begins to settle after the necessary collapse of what was never truly aligned, something gentle yet powerful begins to rise from within. The star appears in your reading as a symbol not of fantasy or future hope, but of deep, luminous restoration. It speaks not to the mind, but to the heart, the place where quiet dreams live, the ones you've tucked away because life told you they weren't realistic or convenient. But those dreams were never meant to be denied. They were meant to be remembered. The star shows you that healing is not a straight line, it's a circle. It brings you back to your beginning, only this time, with clarity. This phase is not about seeking revenge on the past or demanding apologies from those who misunderstood you. It's about restoring your relationship with what was sacred in you all along. The part of you that never needed to earn worthiness. The part that never asked for permission to exist. In this light, you're not starting over. You're realigning with your original essence. Then comes the Lovers, not just as a card of romance, but of conscious choice. In traditional readings, this card often symbolizes relationships and decisions of the heart. But for you, in this moment, it points towards something much deeper, your choice to reunite with your true self. The one you disconnected from when you started living for others. The one that whispered in moments of silence, asking, "Is this really who I am?" That version of you wasn't lost. It was waiting. The Lover's card here represents integration. The end of self-abandonment. The return to your own values, desires, and truth. It's about stepping out of the shadows of expectations, family, culture, even your own past fears, and choosing the path that is yours, even if it doesn't come with immediate approval. This is not an act of rebellion. It is an act of sacred reclamation. And yes, the question must be asked, because it matters. Do you have the courage to choose the truth, even if it breaks everything you thought you knew? This isn't a question of bravery alone. It's a question of readiness. Readiness to let go of identities that were shaped in the image of someone else's comfort. Readiness to stand in a version of yourself that might feel unfamiliar, but undeniably real. Choosing truth over illusion often means releasing the roles that once kept you safe, roles like the good child, the reliable friend, or the one who never makes waves. These identities may have given you belonging, but at the cost of authenticity. And authenticity is the only soil in which your soul can truly grow. Energetically, what's happening now is a realignment of your internal compass. In astrology, Libra is ruled by Venus, the planet of values and connection, but also of self-respect. Transiting energies are now inviting you to refine your definition of relationship, not just with others, but with your own inner self. This is the space where old vows dissolve, those unconscious agreements you made to silence your truth in exchange for acceptance. And in their place, new agreements form. Agreements with integrity, clarity, and love that does not require your sacrifice. And here's something gently offered, drawn from timeless wisdom. You were never asked to be perfect. Only to be honest. And your honesty will always lead you closer to the life that was meant for you, even if the path looks different from what you expected. This isn't about pleasing others. It's about restoring balance to a lineage, a vibration, a bloodline that has long been waiting for someone to choose truth over tradition. You may feel the weight of that responsibility, but know this: if it came to you, it's because you are ready. You are not here to repeat patterns. You are here to rewrite them with grace. And that rewriting begins the moment you stop asking for permission to be who you already are. What often feels like an ending is actually a return, a sacred completion, not to the version of you that others once defined, but to the truth that was always waiting to be reclaimed. Libra, this is where the journey takes on a resonance far deeper than personal healing. This is where the world appears in your reading, not just as a celebration of what you've endured, but as confirmation that the cycle has closed, and a new one is beginning, not just for you, but for every generation that came before you and those who will come after. The world is not a destination, it's a full circle moment. It signifies the soul's ability to take everything it's lived through, every silence, every question, every sacrifice, and integrate it into wholeness. This is where you stop surviving and start living. And perhaps more beautifully, this is where you stop carrying burdens that were never yours to begin with. When Libra reaches this phase, it's never just about the self. Your sign has always been attuned to the collective. The energy you transmute, the truths you speak, ripple outward through your family line, through time itself. Whether your loved ones are still here or have moved on, their energy is with you, honoring your courage to become what they could not. The presence of the Ace of Swords at this stage is no accident. It is the sword of truth, but also of divine clarity. Where confusion once lived, now there is insight. Where silence reigned, now there is voice. This card tells us that you are not only remembering your story, you are rewriting the narrative with honesty and strength. You may be the first in your lineage to say what was never said, to ask the hard questions, or to break the pattern. That is not a burden. That is a sacred assignment, and you were chosen because you are strong enough to carry it with grace. This is where the deeper numerology begins to unfold. The number 999 often appears at times of release, asking us to let go of what has already served its purpose. It's the exhale after a long-held breath. In contrast, the number 1 signals birth, raw, fresh, and infinite in possibility. Together, these numbers are a message. The old is dissolving, and something new, something entirely your own is rising in its place. If you've seen these numbers repeating around you, they're not coincidence. They're confirmation. To support this shift, even the colors surrounding you hold significance now. Soft silver blue brings in the frequency of truth and deep cellular healing. It's the color of reflection, of peeling back layers and finally seeing clearly. Golden light, especially in tones of warm shimmeries, the vibration of soul awakening. It's the radiance that returns when you stop hiding parts of yourself to be accepted. And the hue of pale rose, that gentle blush of self-kindness, calls in the energy of forgiveness, not for others, but for yourself. For the moments you didn't know better. For the times you chose silence out of safety. For the parts of you that still ache but are learning to breathe. If there's one thing I've learned in walking alongside souls through this kind of transformation, it's that peace doesn't come from pretending everything is fine. Peace comes from telling the truth with love. From acknowledging the pain without letting it define you. From choosing to walk forward even when the path ahead is unfamiliar. There's a quiet truth whispered in the heart of all sacred teachings. You are not here to carry the weight of generations just to suffer under it. You are here to bring it to light so that everyone connected to your line, in body or in spirit, can finally rest. This moment, Libra, is not just yours. It's ours. It belongs to the parts of your lineage that prayed for healing but didn't have the words. It belongs to every version of you that hoped someone would finally say, "This ends here." And now, with the Ace of Swords in hand and the full circle of the world beneath your feet, you are the one who gets to say it. You are the voice that turns silence into freedom. You are the first light at the dawn of a new chapter. And that is something to honor deeply. Maybe the most powerful truth of all, dear Libra, is that you were never here to blend in, you were here to rebalance what was broken. Not just in your family, not just in the world around you, but within yourself. You weren't born to maintain a fragile peace that asks you to disappear. You were born to embody a justice that begins from within. And yes, sometimes that means unlearning, unbinding, and unraveling what was once called love but felt like silence. But as the wheel turns and the final card closes, one thing becomes beautifully clear: the truth you reclaim doesn't just set you free, it sets a generation free. What if you are the first in your bloodline to speak what no one dared to say? What if your voice is the bridge between what was buried and what must now be lived in full light? Can you feel that possibility inside you, not as pressure, but as promise? You are not here to carry the weight of your past like a punishment. You are here to transform it into purpose. And your purpose is not performance. Your purpose is not perfection. It is presence. Bold, aware, and anchored in the truth of who you are, even if that truth took time to remember. So I invite you now to reflect. What would change if you stopped waiting for permission? What would your life look like if you chose your truth, even when it's inconvenient, even when it's misunderstood, even when it means standing alone for a little while only to find yourself surrounded, at last, by people who see and love the real you? This reading wasn't just a collection of cards. It was a mirror. A reminder that your timeline isn't behind schedule, and your awakening isn't too late. Every pause you've endured, every delay, every cheat, all shaped the strength you now carry. And that strength is yours to use with compassion, with clarity, and with courage. So now, let's bring it into your reality. Take a breath. A real one. Feel your feet on the ground, your chest rising. Ask yourself honestly, what is one thing I'm finally ready to say out loud? What is one choice I've postponed that now calls for my yes? Your soul already knows. And your life is waiting for you to trust that knowing. If this message stirred something deep in you, if you felt even for a moment that this was written for your heart, then let it be known. Drop a comment below and write, "I am ready to claim my truth and walk in my soul's mission." Your words carry energy, and when spoken with intention, they ripple outward. You never know who might read your words and finally feel safe to step into their own light. And if you felt held by this message, if it met you in a sacred space, I gently ask you to support the work we're doing here. Like this video. Share it with someone who might need it. And most importantly, subscribe to Zodiac Whisper Tarot so we can continue this journey of remembrance and rebirth together. Because you are not alone. You never were. And now that you've remembered the truth, they never can silence you again. Your light is not a threat. It's a torch. Carry it forward.